Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, good. So, will you please tell us your name?
Yeah, my name is Sam Juarez, and I'm a Durham raised, been living here all my life. Current nursing student, and 20 years old, and just trying to pursue my dreams here in the United States.
What is your ethnicity?
So I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico, and I moved here when I was about 2 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, can you explain, at least to me, why there's diversity of types of people in the Latinx or Latino community? So, like Mexican, and I know everybody comes from a different country. I got that part, but why is there a distinction made about where you are? Because I heard someone tell me that there are Hispanic people, so does that mean there are also Latin people too?
Yeah, so Latin can range anything from Argentinian, Brazilian, um, and then there's Hispanic people usually come from Mexico, Honduras. But I mean, everything falls. We're all Spanish-speaking countries,
Mhm.
so everything kind of falls under the same label. It's just kind of different cultures, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm sure you are aware what has been happening at the border between
But yeah.
Mexico and America, with families being separated and children being separated from their families. What do you think about that, and what do you think the right answer for that is?
I mean, it's tough. I came from immigrant family. I'm a first generation college student, so it's like I'm the base of what's to come. Um, I mean, I come from two parents who had me at the age of 18, and they started with nothing. They came here with nothing but clothes on their back, and I mean, they just worked themselves up. It's not people that, I mean, obviously the current administration is saying that there's bad people coming, but I would say the people that are coming over are people that are hardworking, and I think we should be a little bit more compassionate and try to understand everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So let me ask you this question. So there has been, I don't even know if discord is quite the right word, but for whatever reasons, Black and Brown communities have not united together under one vein of advancing our commonness, like what we have in common, right? So why do you think that is? Why do you think that Black and Brown communities are not more connected than they are already?
there can't be one concrete answer to that, unfortunately. Um, I think we should, but definitely the media plays a role. I think we should definitely stop saying things as a from the perspective of race, and we should start to you know align our issues and try to see how we can work on them.
Mhm.
um, it's a bit unfortunate that we keep seeing racial issues, and we keep separating each other because of the color of our skin. I wish that could change, but the only answer I have to that is that the way we should fix it. There's not one concrete answer to that. Yeah.
So, with that said, did you see the video of Mr. Floyd dying under the police officer's knee?
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Yeah, I did see it.
And what did you think of that?
So the first time I saw it, I was kind of, like, I didn't like, I was in shock watching the video. Um, the everything that he was saying while he was under the the officer's knee was, it's just, it's so sad. It's so sad. I mean, even thinking about it now, it's just like, wow. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's. I was in shock. I was in shock. I didn't know what to feel, but I mean, I was driving while I was watching the video, and I couldn't even focus. I felt like I had to stop to just kind of like take a breather, and it's unfortunate.
As a Black parent, I have two children, and I have a fear for their safety.
Yeah.
So we have these conversations with our children about how to be safe and when you're out and about in the world. Do you have that same consideration as a Mexican American? Do you have that same, if you see a police officer, does it incite some
Yeah.
anxiety or something in you? You froze.
Um, can you hear me?
I
Can you
hear
hear
you.
me?
I hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not a conversation that's had at home. I've been pulled over 4 times, and I don't know if fortunately I was just lucky, but all 4 times I was let go with either a warning or just a fix a ticket. But it's really sad that those conversations have to be had at home, especially in um, African American families and households. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. It's just really sad.
Yeah.
But in my personal house, it's not something that a conversation that's had. No.
No, you don't have that conversation. So there's no concern for police brutality or any kinds of overt or covert racism that you've experienced as being while being here in America.
So I have not. There is. So my dad was pulled over outside of our house. And he says he was driving. The cop was, there's no way he was driving side by side, and the cop was just like sitting there. So there's no way he saw his license plate. My dad says he made eye contact with the officer, and the officer started following him immediately after he made eye contact. I mean, he had his seatbelt on, following the rules, and he was just really confused as to why he pulled him over. So he pulls him over, comes to the window, asks him, like, do you know why, like, is your license and your registration? My dad asked him, hey, like, what's the deal, right? Like, what? I didn't do anything wrong. We just made eye contact. You start following me. And he says the cop, because he got really upset that he asked that question for some reason or another. And he just started being rude. And my dad felt as if it was a little bit of bias, or he doesn't know why he pulled him over, but he let him go, and he feels that was racially motivated. For me, I've never experienced anything in school. I mean, when I've gotten pulled over, but when I was going to Mexico about 4 years ago through advanced parole, because I'm a DACA student, I was intimidated on the border. My brother, which was actually born here, he came with me, and it was just me and him. And we have to go through sort of like an inspection. My brother is a little bit more lighter of skin from my mom's side of the family. So they separated us, and they put me, they got me alone in a room, and they were really intimidating in their questions. And they asked me if he was really my brother. And they told me that we didn't look alike. And they tried to convince me that he wasn't my brother. And they were asking me where I was going, what I was doing. And then, I mean, stuff like that before I left the country. Coming in wasn't that much of an issue, but it was kind of peculiar, that whole situation. But I mean, I didn't let it intimidate me. And I mean, I got through it, but there's definitely other people that won't, that can't. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us what DACA is, and what benefit you get of being a DACA student. So tell us about that.
DACA was a decision that Obama implemented. It gives legal residency for people, younger kids that are pursuing an education or want to work here in the United States, that came here illegally before the age of 15, completed high school, and have a clean criminal record. These are the people that are eligible to sign up and register for DACA and be protected under the deferred action, and can receive a license, can receive college education, and have a work permit.
You vote?
No, we cannot. We cannot vote. No. A lot of people, there's a common misconception that we can receive benefits from the government, which we are not allowed to. We have to pay out-of-state tuition. And we're also not eligible for government funds.
or anything.
Yeah, nothing at all.
And so in the news, there's been a lot of talks that recently there was a DACA win in the Supreme Court. So there was something that was there. Does that mean that DACA will persist, or it will continue to come up over and over again over time? Or will it
Uh,
be such that, immigrants that come into the United States and live productive lives will never have to face this again?
so Trump took it to court because he thinks it was unconstitutional, and he lost in court. The unfortunate thing is that basically everybody's saying that the House basically gave it back to him and gave him a roadmap as to how to get rid of DACA. So everybody's assuming that he'll come back, which he's stated multiple times on Twitter, and with a better movement to try to get rid of DACA, which he promised during his campaign. So, I mean, who knows? We'll see if he comes back before his term is over, or if that's going to be one of his campaign promises to get reelected, which is unfortunate. Yeah.
It really is. And
Yeah.
considering America is a land of immigrants,
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Absolutely.
we find people. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, statistically speaking, the DACA recipients have been doing really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the government and for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's really an unfortunate thing that we're sitting here considering that. And I don't know if you followed the news, but his wife and her family were immigrants, and they got visas to become.
It's kind of a double standard, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so let's talk a little bit about nursing. So what type of nurse will you be when you finish your education? Are you going to be like an ER nurse, or are you specializing? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm about to enter my second year of nursing, and I've always said I've worked better under pressure. So I'd like to work in a fast-paced environment like the ER.
Mm-hmm.
God willingly, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so what are your hopes for your little brother? What is it that you see for him? What is it that you want for him?
Well, both my brothers were born here, and I'd like for them to kind of coming up for me being the only child for like about 8 or 9 years. It was really important to soak in the Mexican culture.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from the educational aspect of things, I'd like for him to also soak in the Mexican culture. I wouldn't like as generations go on, I wouldn't like for that to be lost, especially in my family. So that's something I'd like to work with him in. And I mean, ultimately, I'd like for him to pursue his goals. It doesn't have to necessarily be college. Doesn't have to necessarily be something professional. I'd just like for him to be comfortable living in the U.S.
Yeah,
yeah.
That makes sense. So my last question is this. So, okay, in a perfect world, what does it look like for Mexican Americans? What is the perfect world? And no matter where you are, whether you're in Mexico, America, wherever you are, what's the perfect scenario?
I feel like, well, from what I know and the people that I'm close to, we're just hardworking people. I mean, people like when my parents got here, they didn't care about the pay. They didn't care about what needed to be done to work and start something, build something here. So I think ultimately, we just want to work and build something, build a family, and get our children to do better than us.
Right.
I mean, it's the same thing with American parents, the same thing with and just about anybody. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all my questions. So I'm going to give you the remainder of time. If there's anything you'd like to share with us that we haven't discussed, please.
I mean, that's pretty much it. How with oppression and the government.
So I think that I don't have the understanding of the Mexican experience. I understand that there are parts of Mexico they're very poor,
Yes.
and people struggle. Being an ancestor of an enslaved people,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to see the world in which we live, right? So that they what they did to Mexicans at the border also
Mhm.
happened in slavery, right? So parents were separated from their children.
Yeah.
They were sold to do work. I mean, as soon as they can conceptualize work,
Yeah.
enslaved children were sold away.
Mhm.
In the case of Mexican Americans, they're separated from their parents and they're put in these spaces. And there's a lot of research that says that the trauma that happens to us becomes encoded on our genes, right? So for Black Americans to have so much trauma from slavery, Jim Crow, and all the other kind of obstacles that still exist today, I
Uh-huh.
imagine that for Mexican children that are in this space right now, in these camps at the border, are also going to have trauma that they're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
have to overcome, you know, at some point, because like to be separated from your mother, I mean, like that is to me the most. I couldn't imagine if someone took away my children. That would be like, I don't even think I could process that. So because of something that's not even a thing, right? So you want to come to America and be a better and have a better life. And for someone to say, well, all Mexicans are murderers, rapists, and killers, all races are murderers, rapists, and killers. We all do that. It's a part of everybody's culture. That maybe that's what makes you an American, is that you can murder, rape, and kill. And to
Yeah.
do stereotypes on people and limit that recreates oppression over and over and over and over again, right? Because
Absolutely.
if I can look at you and say, oh well, he's Mexican, I have to look at you and see you as a human being. I have to look at you and see, how can I help you? What can I
Absolutely.
do to see you get to the next place you need to go? And that's what I think, that's how we defeat oppression, is that we see each other as humans and we don't allow that oppression to continue stirring up emotions in us that we can't get past, because you can't undo the past. There's nothing you can do about the past. Whatever you did yesterday, you can't get a do-over. It's
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
So you got today and moving forward. So what has happened to Black people for a long time is tragic. I will say this one thing that I think is probably the most truest statement I could say. When things turn out well for Black people, they turn out well for all people,
Oh,
not
yeah.
just Black people. Because if there were no Civil Rights Act, you would not be where you are right now.
Yeah.
If we were not allowed to learn and educate and do all the things, voting would not be an option for. I mean, so when things work well for Black people, they work well for all people, and I think that's the premise that we must be operating on.
Oh, yeah.
There was a post on Twitter of a little girl, an Asian American, who said exactly that. She said, we as Asians Americans realize the freedoms and the opportunities we have now is because of the sacrifice of Black people. And that's what the framework has to be as we move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that need to be improved. Definitely. I wonder how other countries see us. I mean, it's something so simple as equality can. I mean, it is something. I mean, this country is so prideful of a lot of things, and we can't say that we're prideful of our equality, because we just aren't there yet. As
Right.
opposed to other countries that are. I wonder what their perspective of us is.
I mean, I think you can see a lot of it. So you see Canada. Canada tries to move as far away from this, because I don't think so race is a construct, right?
Yeah.
Ethnicity is a real thing, but race is a construct. So black, white, brown, yellow, whatever it is, those are constructs that give titles to people to help us categorize people, right?
Mhm.
But like places like Canada, where they are really, you know, clear about what their practices and policies is. As long as you come into their country, you can apply for citizenship, you can live and work there. They have some very strict gun laws, so you can't have as many guns as we have in America, and all these things. So some countries have really figured it out. I mean, just like with this coronavirus, you
Yeah.
see some countries have beat it back, and while we're exploding,
Yeah.
we're having more and more cases. And I think that's a product of leadership, right? So if you have good leaders, you have good outcomes. If your
Yeah.
leaders are not good leaders, you're going to have all this what we have in the world. And I think that maybe the death of Mr. Floyd has sparked rethinking what America is. I don't know that it's right, but I think it's at least sparked that conversation to maybe bring in about a change. Will I see it in my lifetime? I have no idea, but I'm
Hopefully.
hoping. Yeah, well, hopefully. But
Yeah,
I think it is going to take the generations that are behind me to really we change the narrative, right? To make the narrative that we are human beings. We're not black, we're not brown, we're not yellow, we're not orange. We are human beings.
absolutely.
And the analogy I try to give people is walk outside your house and look. There's not just an oak tree. There's not
Hmm.
just a crepe myrtle. There's not just a magnolia. There are a gazillion trees. I think there's like four or 5,000 species of trees.
Yeah,
If the divine, if the God, the great thinker of all things, thought that diversity was necessary in trees, why would he not think it was necessary in people?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you. It was good to talk to you too.
Absolutely. And I'll send you a copy of the video and you just let me know if I can upload it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. You take care and be safe. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.